Hey guys, welcome back to releasethecraftin. Priscilla here with another day of mods in the scrattic, which is the scrap busting ephemera making challenge hosted by me, Priscilla, at releasethecraftin. And you guys, welcome back. We are on day 24. It is the end of the last third of this challenge. We have one more week left after this, and I am, oh my god, you guys, I cannot even believe how fast this has gone. Me a week ago was dreading how much was left, and now I'm like, oh no, we're coming around the corner. It's gonna end soon. Granted, I still have 7 more days after this to get into, but like, slow down a little bit, okay? So yeah, so today the prompt is quilt, and I had an idea, a very obvious, straightforward idea, where I was like, you get your scraps of fabric, you put them down, you stitch them together. The problem is that I said I wasn't using a sewing machine because of accessibility, and I wanted it to be something other people could replicate and copy if they're following along with me. So I'm trying to make it as accessible as possible while also being aware that I have more materials available than most people because I have been collecting craft supplies for a very long time. That's all it is. I'm not rich. I have poor money management and a long time to accumulate items. That's all I have. But the problem with that is no sewing machine, because I would normally just hand sew something small, right? Because I like to embroider. That's my like non-camera craft is embroidery. So I just sew that up. But as you can see, I can't do that. So I'm faced with this obstacle of how do you replicate a quilt without using your machine or your hand to sew, and I don't know is the answer. So I have a general vague idea of what I'm gonna do. I have to hoist up my die cutting machine, so hold on. If they could make these like 90 pounds lighter, that would be great. So I have a vague idea of what we're gonna do. Ooh, as I knock everything over. Oh, I don't even have my other light on. Hold on. Quick little walk around. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but I feel it. So yeah, so I have a vague idea. And I don't know how a quilt like this is going to look by the end of it, but we're going to see. We're just going to do it because I still have 7 more videos to make. So I cannot spend all my time agonizing over this. So I have scraps of fabric. I've got this cool, like, silvery gray fabric. This, like, marbly dyed, shiny, it's like shiny gold, which is pretty. White and gray fabric. And then this really pretty brown silk fabric. Those are my little scraps. I pulled them out of my scrap fabric bin. And I have dies in shapes. I actually have more crunchy shaped dies than actually like regular shaped dies. I need to work on that because this would work so much better if I had regular flat, even, solid shapes. I don't. So what I'm looking for are the small pieces, like this size and smaller, in the squares and the rectangles, which are going to be here and here. So you see, I don't even use these sizes very often, which is wild. That's actually a little too big, because you think I would. So we're going to break these apart real quick. And I'm going to be all sorts of sniffly and wheezy, you guys. The Texas weather is Texasing, so it's changing frequently. It was 31 degrees this morning. It's now about 69 degrees. So we went from having frozen weather to very warm weather. And I like fresh air, despite the fact that the allergies are trying to murder me. I don't know if I'll need anything this small, but like, why not? Just break it up. Okay, and then we'll break these ones up. Should have done this before I started recording. I just didn't realize I never used the small sizes. I don't know why. I think because I have like decal edge scissors, so if I want like a small rectangle, I just get my scissors and not my whole die cut machine out. Oh, this one's hard. Ugh, Jesus. Okay. So, all of this to being said, This is backwards. We're gonna cut some fabric out. I really need new cutting plates. Look at that. Don't look at that, actually. So let's see. Okay, string. Here we go. Oh, okay. I mean, I appreciate the affection, but you gotta let stuff go. So we're just gonna cut some shapes out and then see what happens. That's too big. I don't know how many we'll need. I don't know how many I'm gonna make, to be fair. I'm not trying to preserve these pieces for anything, you know, like these pieces of scraps, so I am okay if there's a little bit of waste. I don't need to cut out every single piece because I have so much scrap fabric. And the back of my plates are not on the mat. Try this again, but just for this back piece. Or just go all the way. Alright, so I can already see we got lift off, which means we've got cut pieces. Uh-oh, Nico found a bell. I pulled it out of the little scrap fabric drawer. And then she took it because she loves them. So we might be getting a lot of bells, which is okay. And run that back through. So basically, yeah, we're just gonna cut a bunch of pieces of fabric. It's not the most interesting TV, but it's what's on. I actually didn't know that you could, like, use dies to cut fabric. Or at least it never occurred to me until I saw a quilter do it. And then I was like, oh, well, that's so freaking obvious. Like, there's no reason to say that you can't cut through fabric. This is so pretty. I love this fabric. Ugh, don't stick to me. It also loves me, as you can see. Oh, now it's crunchy food time. Okay. She's so funny. All morning I've been asking her if she wants her meaty yum yums, which she does not respond to because she is not food motivated like my other cats have been. And all morning she's been looking at me in the kitchen and being like, we'll make it happen. And then the second I go to get it, she just walks out. And I'm like, what the heck? So I'm like, okay, all right. Eventually you will get hungry. But as you can see, she has chosen the dry food today. So I don't know what's going on. What's she doing? Before I run this through, and it's not on the plate or on the little pad. Let me make sure. So yeah, like, I don't know what's going on in her world right now. Oh, maybe it does need to be run through twice. Or maybe just because it's the silk and it's like... Yeah, I think it's just because it's the silk. Oh, no. Run through twice. Should have just committed to the bit there. Well, we're going to have some fun irregular pieces, and that's okay. Well, now I can't see it. I lost one. Do I just... do it again? There's so much more fabric. I just said I wasn't worried about waste, and then here I was like, oh no. I'll fix it later, don't worry, guys. And pick up the dye that I threw on the floor before my foot finds it. Okay, trying it again. Go off, queen. Yeah, so it is a really nice day here in Texas, if you can't tell. by the outside sounds. But whenever it's like freezing like that, it just blows in all sorts of crud. Where's the top? Oh, Jesus. That, yeah, I breathe in and then become wheezy and irate because I hate having allergies. Although I don't think anybody likes having allergies. That would be weird. Let's hope that got it. Oh no, maybe this is just uncuttable. Maybe we're learning a thing or two here. Because this is like a double woven fabric kind of deal. Or maybe I just need to be more aggressive in the removal. It's okay if it doesn't come out perfect. I just want shapes. Ooh, okay, now we have some grungier, distressed looking pieces because I ripped those out and the string stayed behind. I'm gonna have to come back through with my scissors and just hack some pieces out. Interesting. I'm still using it. We're getting these pieces out of here. I'm learning lessons today. Yeah, I saw this on a quilter's page and they did like some English paper piecing with it, which I was like, huh, fascinating. And I'm beginning to wonder if it would be easier in the case of this particular type of fabric to glue it to paper and give it a little bit more body. The back of this didn't even catch. If that would help, like the silk. You know, do its thing. I guess since we salvaged those, we can salvage these too. Sorry, no, I'm off camera. The cutting machine does take up a lot of space. I don't know. But yeah, it never just occurred to me. I guess the gold fabric worked really well because it's just like a regular calico, like, what is that, like a cotton mix, polyester sort of deal. It's not a pricey fabric by any means. In fact, I think it's one of the ones I got from Joann's. R.I.P. Joann's, but I have been not a big supporter of them for quite a while, since the pandemic. But their fabric section was top, so definitely gonna miss having access to that. And I think you can still get it online, somebody was saying. If you've ever ordered fabric from Joann's online, it's always such a crapshoot on how it's gonna come out. Because I once ordered like an extra big piece. I think it was like 6 yards of fabric because I was trying to make a giant blanket thing. I like giant blankets. So that's what I was trying to do. Oh, here's the other piece. And they sent it to me in pieces. Like, so I just wanted one continuous piece to make a giant blanket with, and yeah, they sent it to me in like 3 pieces, and I was like, what is this? It's not like I ordered, you know, 2 yards, 2 yards, and 2 yards. I ordered 6 yards in one go. So like, yeah, their online fabric thing is sort of a crapshoot. So then after that experience, I started getting fabric from people on Etsy, from fabric stores on Etsy, because they will message you to be like, hey, if you would like 6 yards of this, I have it, but it would come off of 2 bolts, so you would get 2 pieces. Do you still want it? Which is extremely courteous. This is actually really fun, and I don't know if I want to get rid of it, which is why I have so many scraps. But it just looks really cool. And then I guess for the sake of not tossing this out, we're going to cut another piece. We'll make it a big one. Okay. No. There, that's better. Stop it. But yeah, I am more curious actually about what comes up in the aftermath. I think that little piece shifted, so we're probably gonna get 2 cuts. It's fine. Of there being a world without Joann's. Like, what do we get now? We have Michael's, who's like gradually expanding their fabric section, but not in a way that's like comparable. And then for a long time they'd said that Hobby Lobby was going to buy Joann's, and then Hobby Lobby let it go too. So my biggest question has always been what happens to the retailers who were like contracted through Joann's, like Die Cuts with a View and what's it called? That bead one they had, I forgot what it's called. Blue Moon beads, I think. It was a really cool like bead line, but it was like contracted through them. So like, where do all those companies go, and who's gonna step up in the middle? But then I guess maybe people aren't crafting like they used to. This is a slightly thicker fabric, and this is a splotch of glue that I'm fighting here. So I am wondering how that's gonna work with this, but we'll find out once we okay, that's good. So yeah, like I wonder what happens to those companies and like where they'll go and how you can still get them, because like Die Cuts with a View had great paper. I really like their paper, especially their Halloween stuff. And they also had really great like celestial stuff as well. So like, yeah, sad to see that go. Like, what does that mean? Do all these companies go bankrupt now that Joann's is gone, or what happens? I don't think this cut through. Guess we're learning together that you can only do it for this calico fabric. But that's fine. I can work with that. Do you want to run through this little tiny piece here? See if I can get just a little bit more out of it. And then I can get this freaking machine out of the way. Okay, so yeah. I bet you the guy even said it in his video what types of fabrics you could run through the die cutting machine. And I was like, yeah, da 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 da, I don't need to be told what to do. I see a thing, I do a thing. And yeah, here we are. And I need to get my silicone mat off of my other desk and put it underneath this cutting mat, because this cutting mat is traveling. The little feet on this do not stop it from moving, which is weird to me. You think, you know, you'd have non-skid feet on your little mat, but you do not. Okay, so not such a big deal. Well, maybe a big deal if I can't cut it. Could just go get my fabric scissors, but they're around over there. And I'm around over here. So what I'm thinking is that we will piece these little squares and rectangles together and make sort of a quilted effect without having to do any actual quilting. Quilting is another thing I just never got into. I wanted to like be into quilts because I love a big blanket. I love a good warm toasty big blankie. despite being a polar bear, I do like getting cozy. Plus I just like the aesthetics of like a nice quilt, all that patchwork and stuff. Okay, sorry, I needed water. I was dying. Yeah, I like the way quilts look. I did an exploration of quilts, and I could have done this. I thought about that too, but I felt like it'd be a little bit cheating, because on Patreon I have a reward, a digital of these like vintage quilts that I turned into like tags and pockets and stuff. It's really cool, and I've been waiting to use it for something, and I have it printed, and I could have just done that and had the quilts already done for me. I did think about that a lot, but then I was like, nah, this is a scraps challenge. Use your scraps. Because then I would have had to think of like how to add scraps to already printed digitals, and I didn't want to do that either. Because I didn't have the brain power for it. But I could have done that and saved myself all this little fussy work. But this is okay. Honestly, I'm fine with this. Because I know that what we're going to make is going to be really cool. I did think about making like sort of the same thing with paper, because I have all those plain paper scraps. And I even thought about stamping them up kind of like how I did the collage board. But then I was like, oh, it's too samesies. So I guess there were a lot of opportunities available. I didn't even bother looking for the line on this one. Granted, to be fair, it is hard to see. This is a very, like, heavy fabric, surprisingly. Or not so surprisingly. If you are into fabrics, you're probably like, yeah, obviously. I've had this in my stash forever. And I think I still have some of it left. So, yeah. Making sure I got everything. It does look like we got everything. This is not a cool pile like the silk was, so that is going in the trash. So, we got some stuff. And then I was thinking, since I use this to mop up some of my inks, we can make that the back, since it's already got like a texture to it. So that's another, ooh, okay. It's another, like, scrap that I can get rid of. And if I was smarter, I would have primed my Fabri-Tac by getting it ready. But it didn't. So here we are. And so yeah, I think I'm just gonna approach these with sort of a patchwork vibe going. I think I did something like this for my Art Witch challenge, Art Witch August, which I did 2 years ago. Will be 2 years this August, so like a year and a half. I did it with paper. I think it was for monochromatic. I'm thinking I'm not going to worry about getting like all the edges and everything perfect, just so much as I'm worried about getting it down. Oh man, I wish that was up top, because the little friggly pieces would be cool, but I didn't do it that way. Smaller. I gotta work kind of fast. Because it's gonna dry, which it's already doing. So faster. Let's see. I'm being choosy now. Make a choice. Yeah, sorry, I went totally quiet because I got in the zone. Auto zone. Not that one. Totally different zone. I've never been in the auto zone in my life. Because I am not a car person. In fact, I would even argue that I have car blindness because I can't recognize cars no matter what. If you tell me, oh, it's the black, like, Chevy, I'm like, okay, take your word for it, because that doesn't mean anything to me. And I wish I was better at, like, identifying cars and stuff, but I'm just not. Except that the glue is dry. In fact, trying to see how much of this I can salvage. Because I'm obviously not going to have these funky ends at the tops. And, changing my mind. Should have done this farther back. Let's see. Sorry. I needed all of my brain power for this one. But I am liking it. I'm liking it so far. Let's see. This is a weird way to cut this. Okay. Now we're just going to fill in some gaps. You know, here-ish. And look for some edges to seal down. And then, yeah, that'll be our sort of quilted pattern here. I don't know why I'm doing it onto the little piece that's flopping around. It's a much stiffer fabric. It's so interesting, the different types of fabric and like what they do and all of their little quirks and idiosyncrasies, I guess. Maybe something right there. Actually. Let me know. I'm so curious to see what everybody else does for this prompt. Like, really legitimately curious. Because, like I said, I had so many ideas that I was like, oh yeah, that's obvious, and this is obvious, and you could do this too, and that makes the most sense, and like blah blah blah. But I didn't. For all the reasons I told you guys. But I'm wondering if anybody else like thought of those things too, or if they were like, okay, how can I do a quilt without having to actually do quilting? I'm going to bet some of you guys have little scraps of quilts in your stash, because I see that a fair bit too. And I don't think I have a quilt in my stash. I don't think so. It's not usually something I would pick up, so it's something somebody would have to send me. Because if, like, I'm thrifting a quilt at the thrift store, it's coming home with me. You know, like, I mean, it's not coming to the craft room. It's coming into my house to then get laundered and put onto my bed so that I can crawl underneath it and be surrounded by cozy grandma vibes. Because that's my personal aesthetic. I gotta think about how I'm gonna decorate these too. Obviously I'm gonna put a moth on it. That's a given. Okay, drag racer. I wish like I could show you guys like the street view of my apartments out here and like what's going on in this like little side street, because there is nothing about this side street that would make you go, yeah, I should drive my car down here at like 85 miles an hour. There's nothing about it that would say that's even a smart idea. It's not a straight street. It's lined with cars on all sides. It curves, you know, like there's a curve that disappears, like you can't see what's coming around the curve. So it's actually kind of crazy foolish to come around the curve that hot. Like to the point where you're like, are you well for choosing to drive that way in this neighborhood? Because yeah, it's also a school zone. Like there's a not a school zone, it's a like there's a lot of apartments, so there's lots of school pickups, so there's lots of buses and stuff and kids everywhere. So like there's definitely kids in them streets, guys. I know that there are. And yet still somehow here we are. You just speed racering on through. What am I doing? Okay, if I don't do that part, and then when I cut it all down, I actually needed a piece there, I'm going to be so mad. So we're just gonna go get us a piece. I don't think I'll need a piece this high up, but like I'm saying, if I get to that point and then I don't have a piece there after I cut everything, I'm gonna be so angry. So we're just gonna do it. I'm gonna put a lot of glue on that one. And there's glue all over my fingers. And we have 2 squares left, which is fine. They'll find a home somewhere. So let's make some tags. Who said you could go there? Okay, so this is the lowest point. I didn't think it was going to go all the way. What? Okay. I haven't decided if I want little scraggly hangy bits on the bottoms of these tags. What size are these? This is 8.5. What's 8.5 divided by 3? Okay. So we're gonna go 2 3/4. We'll come back to that. By 2 3/4. Really pushing the bounds of what this little chopper can do here. And it's the silk. Interesting. Is it the silk here? It is the silk. Oh, how interesting. So those are 2 3/4. And then this is just a fraction off. Is it worth it? Stuck on the silk again. How funny is that? Never ever would I have guessed it was the silk that was going to be the biggest problem in this entire project. That's what happens when you deal with beautiful things. Like models. Or silk. So, now we need them to look like tags. I don't want a bunch of overhang on the sides. So let me just clean that up. I like the overhang on the bottom, but I do want it to look like I made a tag on purpose, you know what I mean? I'm going to cut the corners off, so I'm not worried about that. Oh, mess. Corner to corner. That's the bottom. So we're going to get these corners off. And then we're going to think about decorating. We're going on the good stuff. Oh, I put this down like I was done with it. What else could I talk about? I haven't really talked about much of anything. I just rambled today. It's been a rambly day. So, I don't know. Fix that. Because that was just holding on with hopes and dreams. Let's see. Ouch, it. Just stab myself with these freaking tweezers. They're the best tweezers, and they are the stabbiest for sure. They're actually electrical repair tweezers. They came in a set. I have since lost the set, found the set, and then lost it again. But there's other pieces like this in my craft room somewhere, just waiting to be used. But yeah, they're the best tweezers I've had because they're for like precision detailing, and they just work really well. I usually end up getting tweezers and like other things. Let's focus on that later. And they just don't clamp, you know, like they don't pick up anything. They're just floppy little sad plastic things. And I don't know why. It feels like we would have mastered the tweezer by now. Like, it shouldn't be stumping us in this day and age, you know what I mean? Especially because, like, makeup tweezers are good. They're so good. So, like, why are crafting tweezers, like, hit or miss? I don't understand. Okay. I should have maybe anticipated this. And I guess I kind of did, in a way. Because I warned you guys about it. I did say I was going to fix it later, and I am fixing it later. So an argument is to be made for doing a better job at applying glue. Or at least a thorough one, because I was not thorough, apparently. Just look at that. Okay, I hear you. I'm fixing it. Don't worry. It's nice is that these are already backed with something. I don't have to worry about the back. I'll just finish inking, and then I will be back to this concept. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so apparently some more precision work is needed in gluing. That is fine. It is the side effect of gluing and not sewing. Or the consequence of gluing and not sewing. Just gotta work a little bit harder to make sure everything's stuck down, but it'll be fine. Now we begin the surgical procedure. I could use one of those frames. I have a bunch of those frames still. Like a frame with like a little moth bursting out of it would maybe be adequate. Well, not adequate. It would be good. It would definitely be good. Because I don't want to like take away from the background, but I don't want to be controlled by the background either. Is this piece necessary? Because if it's not, it's not. Okay, this piece was necessary. And then this piece is necessary. Do you remember screaming that much when you were a kid? I always think about that when I hear these kids playing. I don't remember screaming this much, but I guess maybe we all were this kind of loud. And that's why people get so mad at us for playing like out after dark. Although to be fair, I grew up in the 90s and was absolutely a latchkey kid. So like I had to be either outside playing by my apartment, or I had to be inside and locked up and could not go back outside if I went inside. Those were the rules. So I would definitely be like playing after dark. In fact, once the time would change, you know how like the sun sets earlier, I would be the only child playing after dark because everybody else's parents were like, come inside, it's dark. And I was like, oh, but the time. I still have more hours to go till my mom gets here. So yeah, I'd be playing outside in the dark all the time by myself because the 90s was wild. I can't even imagine like nowadays what would happen. Because it was like outside in the dark with no supervision or anything. No one to say like, hey, don't tear ass around here, like be normal. Oh, these are nice. Okay, there's some skinny ones in this one. I was worried about that they would be too thick. That's a good one. Well, that's a fancy one. I do just like the regular square frame, although it is the exact size of the tag. So let's see. Oh, well, wait a minute. That's charming. That has appeal. That's too wide. Yeah, okay. I guess we're using ovals and circles. Kind of goes with the vibe. I don't know what that means, but it goes. So at any rate, yeah, we had like a park in the apartment complex that I grew up in, like a little play place. But it was like very small with like, you know, the sandbox and everything and a little slide and like jungle gym set. Oh, my fingers are so gross. Okay. So, like, yeah, it was really small. So, like, it was kind of understood for that to be, like, the park for babies. You know, because it was so tiny, everything was so small in there. So usually we'd start out there, like everyone would be like, okay, meet at the park, and we'd meet there. And then after that, it was like, okay, well, let's roam the desert and be free. Because there was absolutely no supervision at this time of my life. And yeah, we would then venture out to the other side of the wall. On the other side of the wall was the open desert. And everything that it entails, you guys, the cactuses, the insects, the spiders, the scorpions, rattlesnakes, other snakes, sidewinders, just every horror of the desert you can imagine, coyotes, all the things were there. And yeah, it was just, we'd just be running around playing out there. And this was before people like knew that you needed to drink water to survive. It was just like, oh, if you're hot, drink some water. But like otherwise, nobody was like, hydration is essential for your livelihood and survival and, you know, your state of being. We weren't like that back then in the 90s. So there was not a single water bottle to be found. No Stanley cups, no nothing. If we had like pocket change, we would then run to the corner store and like the little gas station and get some Gatorade. So we would have Gatorade because Gatorade is the drink when you are a child because it comes in colors. So we would have Gatorade or iced tea, just depending on how much we had, because you get an Arizona iced tea for 99 cents, and that's definitely in the budget. But otherwise, if there was no pocket change, there were no beverages. There was no water, no hydration, no thought of being like, how can we avoid heat stroke? None of that. Just get out there, run loose in the desert, run from coyotes occasionally, stumble on scorpions and spend all of your time poking them with sticks to see if they will stab the stick. Also stumble onto snakes and see if they will bite the stick, because finding a stick was the crucial bit here. We had to find a very masterful stick and then present it to the group and then use that to harass the local wildlife, as well as the cactuses. We had we have jumping cactuses back where I'm from, and yeah, that poor plant got so stressed out because once we were like, that's a jumping cactus, it was like poke it with a stick, throw rocks to see how much like of it jumps off, and then occasionally get stuck by said cactus because we're kids. And yeah, the coordination was not giving. Okay, and then so those of you who are just now joining me and have not been on this channel for a long time, you might be like, what the hell, where was this, where did you grow up, Priscilla? And the answer is I grew up in a town in Nevada, on the outside of Las Vegas. And this is not a unique experience. I'll say that much. I kind of like that. Okay. I was expecting to go bigger, but, you know, like, bigger. But it looks like a conservative-sized moth is the way. Ooh. I like that. Okay. Look at how many moths we've already used. I'm, like, kind of blown away by the fact that I have used up so many of these moths. I still have more. And there's, like, another page I think I haven't cut out yet, so I didn't make as big of a dent. And to be fair, I did go back and print out some more at a smaller size, because I'm determined to use this. In fact, do I like it? Hold on. Wait a minute. Get out of here. Yes, okay. You guys have been watching me try to shove that tiger moth into places, and I only have the big one. I think I have an idea for what to do with the big one. I don't know if it'll fit into the prompts for this challenge. So, I don't know. I think there's a couple of ideas I have that won't fit the prompts. So I have decided to do them as my video tutorial thingies for Patreon. So if you want more moss in the scrattic, that is where I will be posting extra ideas. But at any rate, so I grew up in this town outside of Vegas in the desert. And it was a very small town with some casinos and stuff like that. And it actually had, before I can remember, it had a, like a growth boom that sort of died out, by the time I was like old enough to go play outside by myself, which was like 7? 7 or 8, as again, I was a latchkey kid, so I was on my own a lot. In fact, probably 9 or 10 by the time I was like left alone completely and didn't need to check in with an adult. I was just given a set of rules to handle things. To be fair, my mom was a single parent, you guys, so we were working with what she had, and she did not have a lot to go off of, so she did the best. And this was before it was even like illegal to leave your kids by themselves. There was no age limit for this, so I was not the only child who was just roaming the city streets free. But even then, as a smaller child, I just had to go to a friend's house so that they could babysit me till my mom got home. But I still had to get myself to and from like school to the house by myself. There was nobody picking me up or anything, because that's how we did things. But at any rate, so they had this big development boom, and so the choice is to be like flying out, which I kind of like. I'm not gonna lie. Hold on, I have to figure out what I'm doing design-wise before I keep talking. Okay, I like that. Maybe some leaves? Come on now. Okay, I had to have a think. And I have done thunk. I have thinked, and thunked. So, I'm glad that you guys could join me for that moment of silence, where all 6 of my brain cells were functioning at their highest capacity. So at any rate, like, because this boom of development stopped, yes, okay, bear with me, guys. Because this boom of development stopped, they had all these construction things like just hanging around, and we like used those in the desert where we were roaming free, free range children, to build like forts and stuff like that. So there was this huge like concrete pylon that we would play in, and we put like stuff in it that we'd find, like trash. We'd drag it out to the desert to put into this giant concrete pylon. And in doing so, okay, I like that. Maybe that's just why I'm not loving this. In doing so, you know, we had like our own little fort or whatever, but after a while, the unhoused, the homeless population would have moved in, and they would take over our things, so we'd get into these fights with the homeless people because they were stealing our stuff, basically, and stealing our cool fort, which is absolutely outrageous, and, like, just, an argument for why children should have been more supervised at the time. Because, yeah, it was crazy. But that's, like, what we would spend all of our time doing. I do like that. I want these to be not black, though. So, we're going to emboss them. But, whatchamacallit, if we were not doing that, you know, we were terrorizing the local wildlife and flora, and beyond that, we were riding our bikes around the town on the 2 streets that encompass the entire town, there were side streets, of course, but there was like a main road with a crazy high hill that we would ride home from, and at the very top of the hill was the school, like our elementary school and the library. So to get out of school, we're gonna go green, although verdigris would be nice too, but I feel called to be green. This is metallic green. Yeah, that'll be cool. It'll be cool. So we'd get out of school, and then we would take our bikes, no helmets, no pads, no nothing, just get on your bike and be free, young hellions. And we would ride down the first hill from the school to the library, and then we would stop, because that would be the hill, like where the library is at, that intersection was the highway, the one highway through the town. Granted, there were sidewalks and stuff, so it's not like we were just out there in the middle of the street. But we would, do I want to use the dauber or just my pad? Does it matter? No. Well, I guess the level of mess is what I was considering. Whatchamadoodle. So yeah, we'd go there, and very respectful and responsibly, we would wait to see how many cars were coming and all that stuff, and we'd stop at the top of the hill. There'd be a pack of children on their bikes, and then one narrow sidewalk that would go down the hill. And I think I've talked about this before, because they would have we did it so often that like the cops would come every day after school to block off the side streets, because a crowd of children would just be flying down the hill at top speeds, some able to control their bikes better than others. And like some of us would know how to brake and some of us would not. But you'd go down this hill at like breakneck speed. And at the bottom, where it would like level back out again, was the little tiny grocery store, convenience store that our town had. And it would just be like a flock of children just all convening onto this store to go then stock up on the Gatorade and the candies and stuff that we had, so that we could go then proceed to terrorize our local neighborhoods, or run around in the desert like a bunch of crazy kids. And this was just like the norm. It was the highlight of my life. It was just so much fun. And like I think about it now, like as an adult, and I'm just like, oh my god. The fact that they let us do this. I remember like talking to teachers and then being like, don't go flying down that hill, like just be careful, use your brakes, make sure that you're in control, you guys please be careful. And they'd be like trying to warn us to not do all these like crazy things and not to go flying at breakneck speeds down the hill, and we'd be like, yeah, yeah, sure, no. And we would just take off and go be absolutely insane and unhinged. And I think about it now where I'm like, as an adult, I would love to relive this experience and, take a bike down this hill. But I already know I would be terrified because I have a fear of death. There's no way I'd be like, with like the brake the whole way, like just squeezing it constantly so that I'm like, down this hill. There's no way. And it's kind of funny because I like roller coasters, and I think that's where that love comes from. Granted, I don't go on many roller coasters now because I'm poor. But like, if I had the opportunity, I would absolutely go. I do love a good roller coaster. Although, I have standards for roller coasters too, because I don't like to be like doing all the backwards, upside down, flippy doodle stuff. I don't like losing like orientation of where I'm at in relation to the ground. I don't like that. But whatchamacallit, like I don't think I could pull off the feat of my youth where I was just there. I think I got the spot. Flying at breakneck speeds down a hill with no regard for my safety or anyone else because there were cars that were coming through there. We were passing major intersections and being like, yeah, all right. And like, when I say major intersections, I mean, like the intersections from neighborhoods to the highway. And like, even after we got out of the convenience store, after we got out of the grocery store, we would go down and there was like another smaller hill. But if you went like left ways to the other neighborhood, they had a little tiny upwards hill and then another big hill that you could ride down. And of course, at the bottom of both of these hills is my apartment complex because I lived where the poor people live. So we lived at the bottom of everything. So yeah, I got to ride 2 hills on my way home and it was a joy and delight. And then if I didn't want to go play in the desert and I didn't want to play at the little baby park, then I would go play at the U-Haul parking lot. And for those of you guys who don't know, U-Haul is a moving truck company, and they had a little depot behind my apartment complex. So there was like a Pizza Hut. Oh, it's on the floor. Huh. I think I missed the hook last time. I was reaching for this and I could not find it. But they had like a Pizza Hut, like a little pool hall bar, and then a church. It was like a little strip plaza, and then behind that was the U-Haul place. And yeah, we would go around. Sometimes we'd go get breadsticks at Pizza Hut, or no, it wasn't Pizza Hut, it was Domino's. So sometimes we'd go get breadsticks there, and then we would go to the back and we'd play in the U-Hauls after they closed, because they don't lock those. They just leave them open. Loud noises. I knew I overheated that one. Huh. Okay. Interesting thing I learned is that this metalline one heats up faster than most of my other embossing powders do because I was burning it. Going at my usual pace. So, things I've learned. Still, not too bad. It's just like you can see where the white is. You can see it on this one, I think, the best. Still cool looking. Not upset. I also don't remember how I had these leaves arranged, so it might be different than before. So yeah, we go play in the U-Hauls because they leave those unlocked. And it was just a wild time. An absolutely wild time. So I can definitely say that my youth, well, maybe not full of the same experiences and adventures as other people's, was definitely fun. You ever climbed a mountain for fun? Because we did that too. Because yeah, nobody was watching us. Nobody was watching us. I cannot stress enough that nobody was watching us. And they absolutely should have been. And I remember because, like, my mom would be like, oh, what'd you guys do today? And I'd be like, oh, I played. And, like, that was it. That's all she went off of. That's all she got. And she never asked me further questions after that. She was just like, oh, okay. I'm gonna make dinner. And that would be, like, the end of our whole conversation. Or she'd be like, who did you play with? You know, like, that's what she cared about, was, like, who was I with? And, like, just so funny, considering all the things that, like, happened, and how our parents were. Like, my mom cared so much that I was playing with the boys. She didn't like that. She didn't like that at all. But, like, didn't care that I was getting into bum fights. Like, not that she knew, you know, but, like, she didn't care about what we were doing. She cared about who I was with. So, like, she would be very upset if I was telling her that I was playing with the boys. And she'd be like, well, why didn't you go play with your friends? They're girls. Like, you know, go play with them. And it's like, oh, well, because their parents are home. You know what I mean? Like, they were there. So, like, yeah, they weren't outside terrorizing the neighborhood. It's just me and these boys. So, like, yeah, that's what we were doing. Is running around like a pack of feral children, or racing our bikes up and down the streets and stuff. And there wasn't anybody to tell us not to. And I didn't even realize, because I was a late bloomer as far as, like, maturity was concerned. My body was not, but, like, I was definitely a late bloomer. So, like, I didn't even know what my mom was worried about. I did not understand why she was so worried about me playing with the boys, especially because I was very athletic and very sporty as a kid. So, like, yeah, I was always hanging out with the boys because we were playing sports and stuff, or doing physical, like, things like climbing a mountain because we did that. And whatchamacallit, it took years for me to realize what my mom was worried about. And by the time that she was worried about it, I was no longer playing with the boys. I wasn't interested in hanging out with little boys anymore, because they were gross. You know, and like I think I mentioned, I was very chesty. I am very chesty. And as a kid, I was also very chesty, which is so disconcerting to be a chesty 5th grader who hangs out with boys, because, yeah, when they started talking about it, I was like, okay, you guys are being weird. But yeah, it wasn't until middle school that I was like, oh, she was worried about me kissing boys. That's what she was worried about. And I was not interested in that at all. So I was like, what a weird thing to be worried about, or more concerned about than, like, my whereabouts and what I'm up to. I kind of like that. It's a different profile, so let's work with that. Okay, work with me. Thank you. So yeah, that's it's just so funny. And I remember because my mom would bring it up when we would go hang out with my other friends. Like, if I was getting dropped off to go to, like, a sleepover or something, she'd be like, oh, are those boys gonna be there? And I'm like, at a girl's house for a sleepover? Like, what are you talking about? But that's what she was worried about. And it wasn't, like, it's just something that I think is so silly, because, like I said, I was not interested. So her fear was unfounded. She had the wrong concerns. And, like, I get why a parent would be concerned, for sure, but she had the absolute wrong concerns. Those were not the things you should be worrying about. But, you know, funny things to just sort of remember and reflect on. And even, like, in high school, I have been a feminist, like, out the womb, you guys. Because even in high school, I had no tolerance for the weird, like, machismo things that boys would do, and the way that they would talk about women. I'd just be like, ew, gross. Like, please help yourself and realize that this is bitchless behavior, because it's not cute. So that was, like, never a concern. My mom really never had to worry about that. Because I just was not interested. What else? And not to say like I didn't like boys. I definitely had crushes and stuff, but like it just was not, it came very late. And by the time I realized I was having like crushes on guys, it was like years behind everybody else in my class. So for me, I was like, oh, hold on a second. I think I understand. And by then I had already like made myself into a bit of a pariah because like I said, I have been a feminist since like the womb. So I'd already been like telling the boys how gross and disgusting I thought they were and how misogynistic I thought they were. And like I said, it was very sporty. So like most of my time was spent being like, anything you can do, I can do better. So like anytime I heard them brag about something, I was like, well, let me show you how good at sports I am. And I was very good at sports. So like, that was what most of my focus was on. So like there was a point where like, I remember guys would ask me out, but I wasn't like even aware of like this whole boys and girls and romance thing. So, when they would approach me, I would be so confused. And of course also just so, like analytical about it. Like, here's the pros and cons and why you are, up to shenanigans by approaching me like this. That, by the point where, I started to get interested in that kind of thing, I had already gotten a reputation for like rejecting guys and not being interested in all sorts of stuff. So I had already like destroyed my social reputation in high school, by being this way. And part of that is probably down to like my particular brand of neurodivergencies and how it went completely undiagnosed in my youth. Which like, I will say, by the time I got to high school, I had teachers who pointed it out, who were like, hey, I know that you're a little bit different. And I'd be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And as an adult who has now been diagnosed with ADHD, so I have the autistic ADHD, was like, oh, I understand what they were trying to tell me by being like, hey, we can see that you are not like everyone else, and so therefore need a little bit more attention. But also, I was in like the gifted program at school, so I was like, oh, is it because I'm smart? No, Priscilla, it wasn't because you're smart. That had nothing to do with it. In fact, it had little to nothing to do with it. I would do like that, coming around the frame. What they saw was a kid who desperately needed social skills and had just sort of going through it. So they were like, hey, maybe don't say everything that comes to mind. And I remember I had an English teacher who told me that, who was like, hey, your opinions are very good and they're very valid, but sometimes they don't need to be said. And I'm doing you a favor by telling you they don't need to be said. And he was doing me a favor, you guys. Because like I said, I had become notorious at that point for being a feminist. And not even a good feminist, just a raging feminist. Do I want it behind this? No, I want this one in front. So they were helping me, in some ways. Otherwise, I'd be like, oh, you probably shouldn't tell a kid not to voice their opinions, but I understand now why we were doing this, and how the teacher was trying to do me a solid. But yeah, by the time I got interested in boys, it was too late. Like I said, I grew up in a small town, so there was only so many boys to start out with, and I had burned all those bridges. And then when they did approach me, I was just like, I see your offer, but like, what you're offering me doesn't make any sense. Because, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like, take all of this back. I had a boy give me like a crucifix that he got from his grandmother as like a, hey, will you go out with me and I'll give you this necklace and you can be my girlfriend kind of thing. And I was like, your grandma gave you this? Like, why would you give that to me? That doesn't make any sense. Like, take this back. And like, I was so confused as to why somebody would give away something that their grandma gave them, because I would never give away something that my grandma gave me. So I was just like, what? Won't she be mad when she finds out that you just gave it to some girl? And then he's like, he offered to buy me the new TLC album, which tells you how old I am. When he got his like allowance and birthday money in, and I was like, No, I'll just buy it myself, like when I get my own money. I don't need you to buy it for me, which, again. And like, I returned all of his stuff to him and was just like, no, 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 do not give me these things. No, 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 I do not want to be your girlfriend. Funnily enough, we dated when we were adults, and it didn't work out then either. Because he was a bum. But, like, a literal bum. Like, he wanted to mooch. In fact, he thought busking was a job. Which, like, for some people, it is. For him, no. This still came up crooked, but that's okay. It's not that crooked. It's less crooked than it was before. But yeah. That, as I've grown older, especially after having tried the round 2 with this guy, I should have known, then that this was not a good sign, because he was trying to buy our relationship. You know, by offering me this necklace and then offering to buy me the CD I wanted and all sorts of stuff like that. I should have known something was off with him. But I didn't. I like it, but it needs words, right? Do I want a clippings? Maybe a clippings to go with the scrappy patchwork quilt vibe we got going on here. Challenge the world. That's so dramatic. Ooh. You trouble me always. Some of these are weird. I've never, like, read all of these, I think, in the way that I should. Ooh, a strange and wonderful place. I lived beneath the open sky. I like that. That's cute. Oh, I like this too. Contented spirit. Listen to the laughter. Fragments of the soul. How about one today is worth 2 tomorrows? A record of the past. I like that. Okay. Can I, like, ink them this way? Yes. Okay. This is fantastic. I am so excited. New hack unlocked. I don't know why that fills me with so much joy, guys. We're just going with it. This might be a little bit long. Oh, no, that works. Of course, granted, I did smush them all down onto my mat, so now I have to wrench them off, but it's still worth it to not have to ink everyone individually. Stick. Oh, I like that. The words work. Okay. So yeah, that's, I don't know, I guess that's a peek into my childhood and the oddity that is my mind as a kid. Because yeah, I definitely struggled, and like having gotten a diagnosis and like the mental assessment that I needed as an adult makes me look back at my childhood like like if people had just sort of maybe identified this as a problem earlier, not a problem, as a condition earlier, I could have explained so many things. and maybe, sorry, now I'm being particular. No, I don't like that. Just come down here. Try this again. You know, understood my like peculiarities and behaviors and quirks earlier on and been able to like address them and get them taken care of in the way that I needed to. Granted, now that I know, I've been able to do that and understand certain behaviors and stuff, and realize that I'm not just like a weirdo, because that's what I thought for a very long time. Oh, my neighbor is smoking. Okay, yeah, I gotta go shut my window. But I don't know. I mean, I'm thankful now because I've been able to turn that into like an understanding and behaviors that I can manage and navigate, whereas before I felt very lost. But I didn't feel lost when I was out there beneath the open sky, free ranging in the desert like a feral child. Boom. Those are great. Gonna clean up and we're gonna come to the last looks. Okay, so here's what we got for quilted. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I like it. I haven't made a bunch of tags, I think, necessarily like this tags, so I'm glad to have some of those made up. I like this. I'm glad we finally got to use this guy. Sorry, focused. I like this too. I like this pop of yellow and green. It's so fun. So yeah, there we go. There's our makes. Let me know what you guys think. Check out the hashtag mods and the scrattic, see what everybody else is making. Check out the playlist listed down below. And until next time, guys, I appreciate your faces. Happy crafting and goodbye.